If the client wants to be on offense, that generally comes from the clients, and the clients generally hire attorneys to look into it and draft legislation or draft an idea. They would take that to me. I would take that to a legislator that I deem likely to be friendly. And then the process from there would be to get that legislator to submit it to legislative council, which is a group of attorneys that work for the House and the Senate. And then they would draft that language into a bill form. And then we would prepare to move that forward.
Okay, interesting. So that makes sense. And you were right. You touched on it earlier. We just want to be left alone generally, as
Yeah.
landmen. And we've seen through the years licensing come up. I mean, that's the biggest thing that we see from a legislature standpoint across the country. Texas has always done a good job of letting landmen be independent and do the land work. We've seen in other states, Ohio, different places in the Northeast, where they kind of brought this licensing thing up time and again. And I think the true value of what you guys do and what the oil and gas lobby in Texas does is evident by the fact that we're able to combat those things when they come up. Whereas in other states, Ohio, the prime example, they weren't able to combat it, or they didn't combat it quickly enough. And we ended up with a licensing situation in Ohio and other states.
Yeah, that's the trick, with these states that just found oil once the shale play started, their natural inclination of their legislatures is to go regulate it and go govern it. That's a great thing about Texas. Even when my old boss, who was a Democrat, was in charge, back then the atmosphere was, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And so if the regulations we have in place are doing their job, we don't need more of them. And if they're hindering the ability of the industry to do their job, let's see if we can have less of them. Now that we are completely Republican controlled, for the most part, that is still the same attitude. The new Republicans are kind of a little bit more inclined to stick their nose into things from a regulatory perspective than the Ronald Reagan Republicans, like I was. Um, you know, but still, we have a great environment here. Not very many people understand what a landman does in the legislature. I spend a lot of time educating them, particularly the difference between a landman and a right of way agent, which, you know, 2/3 of the meetings I've gone into have been people worried about how landmen, excuse me, are, hammering landowners with eminent domain and, threatening to take away their property. I'm like, that's not
It's
us,
not a
buddy.
landman. Yeah.
Sorry, man, but that ain't us. And part of that problem is because a lot of landmen do right of way work, and so it kind of crosses over, and it's a complex issue. I mean, really, what a lobbyist does, we are to some degree subject matter experts. If you're a legislator, you're Representative Ashby in Lufkin, Texas, who's a good friend of mine. In any given day, he's going to talk about jail overcrowding and Medicaid and transportation infrastructure spending and 19 different subjects. He's got a staff of like 1.5 people that work for him. And as smart as Representative Ashby is, he doesn't know everything about everything. And so those people rely on lobbyists to come in and be subject matter experts and talk to them about the intricacies of an issue and really kind of boil it down into monosyllabic terms so that they can ingest it and understand it. And the funny thing about the reputation of lobbyists, everyone assumes that we play golf and go to big dinners every night. But, the reality is we sit in meetings forever and do nothing and talk to people for a living. But as my dad would have said, we don't exactly have the best reputation, particularly when it comes to being sneaky and not always truthful. But the opposite of that is actually the case. If I'm going into, Senator King's office and we're talking about, legislation that affects the industry and he doesn't fully understand it and he is confident enough in his relationship with me for me to come and to ask me to come explain it to him, I cannot lie to that man. I cannot shade the truth. I don't necessarily have to show him the arguments of the opposition or, be completely fair, but I have to always be truthful, because the one time that you lie to them, you're never welcome in that office again. You're burned. And I'm not doing my job for y'all if I can't go into an office and have the relationship where the member and I trust each other, even if we don't agree. I mean, I spend as much time talking to people that are 100% against what I'm talking to as I do the people that are in favor of it, because even if they're against, you want that education to be there,
They need to
because
be informed.
right. And there's not much reason for them to be against most of what we talk about. And so if the better job you do informing them, the better your chances of being able to protect and represent the industry are going to be.
Yeah. And I think I've always thought that the work you do is very much relationship based, just like a landman. Nobody
Yeah.
remembers, how great a job you did. They remember the one time you screwed something up or
Oh,
you
yeah.
violated their trust. And the same goes for a landowner. If you're negotiating deals or you're working on a project, if you lie to someone or you're perceived to have, be not truthful or not given the whole story, well, that's hard to survive, and it's hard to
Yeah.
navigate. And once you've tarnished that, it's gone.
Yeah.
So
My dad always told a funny story that he, worked and got along with landowners for all of these years. And when he was, I think, 74, 75 years old, he went out to see some old guy who was upset about something. They were talking to each other across the fence line, as he tended to do with people, and he got punched in the nose by the guy because he got so upset, and he was so amused. He's like, "I've been doing this for 50 years, and I thought I was going to get punched in the nose and a lot, but I never did, and now it happened." And the guy that punched him was 80.
yeah, I guess nobody would punch an old man, but if you punch a young whippersnapper anytime, right?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I
Goodness.
mean, it's all relationship based, and it's really about, the dinners that I do, the lunches that I do, the breakfast, coffees. They're about building a relationship so that when I need to go see Representative Broussard, he knows who I am. He knows I'm a straight shooter. He may not like me a ton, but he knows that he's going to get the straight dope. And I need to build that relationship. There are 150 House members and 31 senators, and then you've got the lieutenant governor and the governor. All those people have staff. The House doesn't have much staff, but the Senate has 6 or 7, maybe even 8 people in each office. I don't claim to know all 1,000 of those people, but I know a whole lot of them.
You can get to them if you need to.
Yeah, I mean, you want to have a point of contact where you can at least get in the office and, this girl knows you and she tells her general counsel that you've got to talk to. Well, Todd's coming in to talk to you. He's a good guy, straight
That's who
shooter,
he is. Yeah.
and that's the most important thing. And luckily, I've been in the Capitol for about 35 years, and I didn't realize I was this old until my birthday the other day. But I've been doing this a long time, and people come and go, staff comes and go, legislators certainly come and go, but you they tend to move from one job to the other. So they leave one office and then you've got them in another office, and you just go to build the relationship there.
Yeah. Are there ever situations where you maybe need guidance from like the land community, maybe some specific nuance or something going on? Have there been any situations where you were able to work with the landmen to, like, okay, explain what your perspective is, explain the circumstance, explain the details around something that's going on? Does it ever get
Yeah,
down?
absolutely. I always figure that I might, uh, even though I'm explaining it to a state rep, I might understand a depth of 5% of what y'all do and what issues are. If the issues get hot, I'll dig into it and understand more, but I'm never going to know about your business like y'all do. Y'all are the ones, out there talking to people every day, promulgating leases every day, seeing the changes when issues like, wastewater and heavy minerals start to come into play. Y'all are on the front edge of evolving of what the industry looks like. And that's why I try and stay in contact with y'all and get y'all's perspective on things, because really nothing's important to me except for what y'all say is important. So I get a better read on that the more in contact I am with y'all.